since the 360 belt. I just remembered, and we were talking about making a waist harness. So here it is. It's perfect. Fits on phenomenal. It's just like a kite harness.
Johnny,
Tim,
we're back in Maui, and Sky is finally here.
we found Sky.
I gotta tell you, new trend that's out there, hybrid foiling. New to many, but not new to you guys. Let's do a quick history of hybrid foiling, just how we got here, just a short one. And then I want to talk about what the state is. What is current technology? What are people thinking about? When you're riding a hybrid, what are you trying to do? Because this isn't an e-foil. This is hybrid foiling. How did it all get started?
Well, I would say it got started with the foil drive. Sky, what do you think?
Yeah, it came out first with the box set, and then everyone knows the Gen 2 now. But back in those days, we had a box, and we had to figure out where we wanted to put it. And a lot of people put it on their boards, but in Maui, a lot of the guys were putting it in backpacks, and that worked really, really good because we wanted to get into smaller boards, and there just wasn't enough real estate on top of the board to ride the small boards. And as we all know, once it sunk, you didn't have signal, and so we decided to get creative.
Yeah, so I would say the creativity started with the backpacks. You had to take the cord that went to the box and modify it, maybe use it as a leash. There are many times where it's in the backpack, that was the leash, but it's a solid leash, and then you pull out all the connections and you're back to square one. But I think one of the big breakthroughs kind of came from kiting, but it really happened just by experimenting, and it was right here with the harness.
So we were fixing some stuff in the garage, and I remember I had this Insta 360 camera belt, and I said, wait a minute, I got an idea. And so I took off the mount for this, and it turned out that the box could mount perfectly with an Armstrong screw, perfectly fit right in there, T30, fit right in there, mounted it. And then I realized, okay, now what am I gonna do for the leash? And then paracord, 150 pound test paracord, shorter than the power cord, and you were having a guaranteed, never pull, never yank, foolproof system. And once that was set,
Off to the races.
yeah.
But you guys were in the garage with one of the pioneers of foil drive, Riders, who was, helping you guys cut through this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
None other than
Jim Bones,
Jim Bones.
and rest his soul, but Bones,
Rest.
Bones taught us so much about foiling and about life, but about just having fun in the water. And Bones was somebody that he evolved into all the water sports, from the early days of surfing to windsurfing to winging to kite, all of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Bones was basically, at his age, he was, slowing down a little bit, but not really. But once those hybrid foils came out, it was just off to the races.
He was on it. Bones is a force of life. God love that guy, right?
Yeah.
And this technology came around at the right time for him because, he could still paddle, but he was slowing down a little bit. Hybrid foil allowed him to get into those waves and get going. So you guys did a bunch of modifications, in the garage to kind of get to that point. We have a bunch of footage we'll put in here so you can see Bones riding it. Now, with this backpack, you're still using that. When you're down in Vietnam and Bali, you got that going on.
Yeah, so interesting enough, recently there's been some photos and stuff going around of Duotone coming out with a waist harness with a coil that's mounted, and so it's basically the same thing as this. And I knew somebody was going to eventually do it because a lot of people were asking for it. They realized it's a great way to have the center weight of balance, because just like kiting and nature, where do we all put on weight? We put it right here in the belly. So when you have this and you have the weight here, you're just adding on an extra 5 little pounds right in your belly. And it feels really natural when you ride. Now, of course, you have the weight of the motor on the bottom, but again, you're not putting everything on the bottom. And for that, the swing weight is absolutely natural once you get used to it. And for me, this is, right from the start, this is the way, for me personally.
Yeah.
This is
Now,
how I
people
like
don't
to
know
ride.
what we're talking about with hybrid foiling. We're not talking about e-foils. So you have Lyft as an e-foil provider. You have other brands too.
That's a good. That's
This
good.
is, yeah.
What's the difference between e-foiling and hybrid foiling? That's very
Yeah.
good.
So e-foil, it's a board that's 50, 75 pounds. long batteries. They go 28 miles an hour. You're basically getting on them, you squeeze the trigger. They're great fun. Get after it. Now, hybrid foiling is different. This is where you're actually taking foiling skill. Like for all of us who've learned how to prone, we're using that foiling skill, but now we have a little bit of an engine that will help us get into waves. I know for me, it was a session saver. I was over at Ka'a. It was a wind that, it's going offshore. You won't want to paddle into it, but having the mechanism, the hybrid foil, is what saved my day. And they're compact. Some brands have travel batteries. So now when you go on a trip, you can take them to any break around the world, and the wave doesn't necessarily have to be crumbling. It can have a decent pitch to it, but still be pre-crumbling, and you're able to ride hybrid. It started with this with the belt, but now it's evolving, and the battery placement in these different brands is getting better where it attaches to the board, more seamless where the controller can go. You do have to learn how to manage that controller, but once you have that, you elevate above the engine, and then you're foiling through the water.
Right. Yeah, it's unique, and it's really interesting because it opens up so many more possibilities, just like foiling opened up breaks that people weren't even considering surfing at. With the hybrid foil, there's so many places you can access to go have fun. Days that you wouldn't necessarily be excited about paddling out become super days on those, but it's amazing. The other thing though too is there's a balance, as Sky said, like with the weight and things like that, but you may have foils in your garage that you're not interested in riding anymore, but with that hybrid foiling, it helps you because if you're a heavier rider, a bigger foil, with the hybrid, you're going to have longer battery life. So the whole thing is you evolve in doing that is you get used to riding the foil, you become more efficient. And the best guys like Sky that I've seen do it, they're not taxing that battery so much because they're able to pump. Yeah. They're able to manage that battery and extend sessions. Like on the new foil drive, right? You can take that sport battery and just wind it out because you're not actually on that motor the whole time. And in fact, when you're learning, you might be grinding that motor the whole time. Yeah. But as you get better, you can just manage it. So most of the time you're spending, you're on the foil, you're not on that motor, and you can have a great time.
Well, the reason why I pump when I'm riding is because the fastest place to be is the foil out very high up on the water. And then you just have so much fast glide. And then as it comes down, you hit it again, you get that burst of speed, back up again, and you're going really fast. So my fastest speeds, of course, is riding the wave, but when I'm going back out, the fastest parts is when I bring it up high and just glide because there's less drag, right? And bring it up.
And it's interesting, in terms of seeing riders on hybrid foils, I think Sky's the first one that I've seen really pumping it. And so he's taken like this blend of prone foiling and he's pumping it for efficiency. I'll tell you, Bones would be out there like timing himself to be like, hey, Tim, I got this battery to last this long. It was a huge thing that he thought about. And when you first start, I'd chew through the battery. I'm like, man. But then you learn how to be more efficient. It's just, it makes a lot of things very accessible. It's a lot of fun. And I think as we look forward in the world of foiling, hybrid just opens up a bunch of new foil spots and a lot of new possibilities for people.
Yeah, you really want to blend the essentials of prone foiling, subfoiling, all that, and you want to get as close as you can to the most purest form, which is fossil fuel, manual power. We call it hybrid because you are using the lithium, to take you places and to help you and to get where you want to go. And with that, when you start blending it and you really start to tune it, it really just becomes closer and closer to the natural feel, is what I'm feeling, as the batteries get better, as everything gets more finely tuned and the more time you spend on it.
Yeah. I would like to say a little something about the surf environment. If you're new to hybrid foil, whatever brand it is that you're using, stay out of the surf break where the guys are out there who are paddling and catching waves, whether they're prone foiling or whether they're surfers. It does create a little bit of noise and a little disruption. And also, if you don't have good control over this, you can actually hurt somebody if you fall on a wave that's breaking. And so, the beautiful thing about having this hybrid solution is you can be catching waves away from the popular breaks. So please do so. Be a good citizen, right?
Yeah, there's been some controversy, some back and forth on Maui. I think Australia's made some rules around it, at least how it's ended up today. is people accept the guys that are riding those. Here's the area that you go to, and you're okay. But yeah, you don't want to be coming through the surf break, because the beauty of the hybrid foil is you can catch a lot of waves, and a lot more than you can catch when you're paddling. But be a good citizen. You don't want to be the guy at the buffet where it's all you can eat, and he's there from 9 in the morning until 11 at night.
with his 5 batteries, with the godly powers.
Exactly.
Now that being said, if you want to be quiet, a lot of guys have gone to the 3 prop, which is much more quiet. It's more peacekeeping. I personally don't like that one, so I'm a little louder, because I use Hybrid Foils. My sponsor came out with a hub I designed with them, and it's as wide as the can, as wide as the motor, so it's completely all even. And with that, it gives me the best top end and bottom end I found. And so therefore I've never used the 3 prop ever again after I tried them back to back. That being said, it's preference, but I found that for me there was no advantage of the 3 prop for me personally, the way I like to ride. But yeah, it is much quieter though.
Well, the thing that I really appreciate, because we've been out prone foiling at the rail, John and I are prone, you've been hybrid. The thing I really liked about it is you'd come and actually hang out in the lineup with us.
That's another thing. Exactly.
It truly is hybrid.
If you're going to be out there and you want to kind of, get to know the community, don't just ride around constantly. Even the DLNR and the police said, hey, what happens when it looks like you're just constantly motoring around? I said, yeah, it looks like me foiling. And he goes, exactly. And it's true. So, ride a few, drop, keep the peace. Talk to your friends, enjoy, converse, catch one, and then go off into the distance, ride a few, come back, chill, talk to your friends, and
Yeah, and we've been talking predominantly about hybrid foiling in the ocean, and that's an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this on lakes too.
Yes.
And so if you don't want to spend $100,000 on a wake boat, there's all kinds of wakes out there that you can ride hybrid foil with a little bit of board. We'll talk really quickly about a couple things. When you start hybrid foiling, you need a little bit bigger board to help you get going.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Scott, you're a great prone foiler surfer, so you can paddle into a bunch of things. But for us more, mere mortals, you want to be on a board that's closer to maybe 45, 50 liters to help you get in.
Yes and no. So Bones, of course, he was a freak of nature, very good at everything he did for his age, if you knew Bones. When we first started this, he talked about guys, or we had dreams of skimboarding, with that. He goes, oh, it doesn't matter about liters because you're using the motor and you need a wave. Now, a lot of guys are using these huge boards that they can get up in flat water. And I say that takes the fun away. If you're going to be in the waves, get away as much as possible, experiment. And Johnny realized that early on. He had the big 50, and I'm like, hey, Johnny, let's try the 32. And he went to the 32 and went, wow, that's amazing. Next thing you know, we're on the 25, 27.
It's a progression for where you are as a water person, as a surfer, as a prone foiler, and just take a little bit of time, and ultimately you'll get down to that smaller board. I'd say the other thing too, we did see some injuries happen in the sport. Typically that happens with a little bit more of a pintail towards the back, because there is a prop there. And so if you're starting out, at least my recommendation, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, is a little bit more of a square tail. It kind of keeps your knees and your bits and pieces a little further away from that prop.
Unfortunately, I was there for both of the first injuries, and it happened at the rail. And what they happen is they hit the reef. One was hitting the reef, and what happens is they go forward, and as it pushes them forward, as gravity, it goes like this, and then their knee falls into it because it happened so fast, and their knee went into the prop. Yeah, it wasn't life-changing. Some stitches, and kind of.
Hey, everybody is perfectly fine now, but there was a little bit of blood. What about the front foil? Like Johnny, you mentioned like having some of the older foils that you might not be riding as much for prone, but they're available in the garage, and it turns out they're pretty good with the hybrid.
Yeah. Well, when you're starting out, it's important. You have foil with good low end and lift. You're going to get on foil. You're going to get on plane, especially as you go down to smaller boards. It's helpful because once you engage that battery, and usually you're going with the grain, with the current, with the wind, with those wind waves, with a wave.
To kind of just help you get that momentum.
And so you want to get on plane, on that board, and then you're going fast enough where then you can get to your feet. And then once you're up on your feet and riding, if you know how to foil, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So those old foils, I found that, a 1550, some of the older foils, not the high aspect stuff, worked really well. It also extended the battery life because you're up on foil and that engine's not working so much to create lift with those smaller foils.
And then now, once you progress and you can do maybe not what Sky can do, but you get close to that, your sweet spot right now is 780 with the speed 180 on the back.
My daily driver is about the HA 780, 680 even. And I've been really liking the 220 glide, and I'll go to the 205 surf, depending how big it is. I'd rather have less battery, but once I get on the wave, I want to be able to boogie down. And the only way to do that is to put on a smaller foil so the battery won't last as long, but I get much more exhilarating rides.
With this kind of setup with hybrid and foiling, if you want to do downwinders, it's not a bad way. It's going to be a little bit easier to learn than trying to paddle up to do those downwinders. And so, you know, at least for me, I expect that we're going to see more people who enjoy the great wide open spaces of downwinders using a hybrid setup, not only here at Maui, but also at the Gorge, because it's just to be out there in that open space is really fun. Any last minute predictions from you boys?
Well, you know, I just got back before I finally came back here after the Lahaina fire. I'm glad to see everything kind of coming back slowly but surely. I went to Japan and I snowboarded, and I started thinking, I said, wow, this reminds me so much, and it started to really connect the dots. Of course, I like the tropics and the sun and everything, and I realized it really almost makes snowboarding obsolete in a lot of ways. I mean, just saying. John Florence says he realized he's not going on snowboard trips anymore ever since he started foiling and doing downwinders or whatever he likes to do, which is mostly downwinders. They realize they're not even doing snowboarding trips anymore. And I just said, God, it really is Hawaiian snowboarding. You know, especially when you have places that it just peak way outside and just roll forever. You have an endless canvas. It's really addicting. It's really amazing.
All right, well, I'd say this. If you're curious at all, get out there, find a brand, reach out to us, give us a call. You can reach Sky at his Instagram. You can reach out to us at Half-Life. We'll be more than happy to set you up with a solution that will work well for you.
I got one quick story I'd like to share.
Please do.
Okay, so the foil drive guys, and this is a story that's out there for Boney, when he was struggling a little bit with his health and that, their new foil drives, I think he was the first one on the list. And he called me up one time. He said, hey, Johnny, you immediately have to buy this new foil drive. I got one coming. I'm like, how do you have one coming? He's like, I've been talking to these guys. Bones is the most stoked guy to be in the water if you're ever around him. And he's like, they're sending me one. Hot off the presses. Brand new, early one. And so they sent him a foil drive in the case with a little plaque that was his name, custom for Bones. And that kept him so stoked because it gave him something to look forward to. And he rode that, you know, until he left us. But I just thought that was a cool story. And thank you, Foil Drive guys, because it was great for Bones and great for us.
Love
Absolutely.
that story, John. Love that.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Please check out our other videos. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Sharky, for the background music.